All right, guys. So happy Friday. We finally made it through the first week of this online learning thing. Only a couple more weeks to go. So today we're going to be starting to use everything we've learned up to this point in order to solve exponential equations. So we'll start with the easier side of solving exponential equations, and then in a couple days we'll move on to the more difficult ones. Not to say that these aren't going to be difficult at first, but then you'll figure it out once you watch them. So first we're going to use this exponential property for equations. Basically just says if you have an equation and you have two exponents like this, and then if the bases match, then you can actually just go through and cancel them out. And then whatever is left up at the top, that's what you're left with. And we've actually already been using this property, but this is just a reminder. So if that one didn't make sense, so it's all right. You'll figure it out when I go over this first example. So here I have 3 to the 2x plus 4 equals 3 to the 7x minus 2. So like I was saying before, since they are both 3's here, they actually cancel each other out. And then, so you're just left with 2x plus 4 equals 7x minus 2. And then you just solve this like your typical equation. So I'll start with minus the 2x. Now you could start this in any way. This is just how I like to. So subtract 2x on both sides. So you're left with 4 is equal to 5x minus 2. Then add the 2 to both sides. So plus 2. So you get 5x on this side and 6 on this side. And then last step, divide both sides by 5. And then you guys know that I prefer fractions, so I'm just going to leave it as a fraction. 6 over 5, call it a day. Now, if you're obsessed with decimals, then I guess I'd be fine with you changing it. I think it'd be like 1.2 or something like that. So that's the easiest example of using that property to solve an exponential equation. So again, bases have to match in order to cancel. So then looking at this next one, what's the issue? All right, see, so there's a 7 here, but then there's a 49 over here, so we can't cancel. Now, so the goal is to still use that property though, so then you would try to think about it, and this should probably have jumped out at you. We can leave the 7 to the 6x plus 17 alone, but this 49 is the same thing as 7 squared, right? 7 times 7 is 49. Now the reason why we would change the 49 is because now that these bases match, now we can cancel these out. And then you're just left with 6x plus 17 equals 2. And now it's just your simple two-step equation like you've been doing since Algebra 1. So minus the 17, you get 6x equals negative 15. Divide both sides by 6, divide by 6. And then you get x is equal to negative 15 over 6. And then make sure to simplify your fractions. So 3 divides into 15 and 6 evenly. So divide by 3 on the top, you get 5. Divide by 3 on the bottom, you get 2. And so there's your answer, negative 5 over 2. I think it's like negative 2.5 or something like that. All right, so that's an easy example. The first one already had the same basis. Second one had to change the 49, and then you can cancel. So now let's start adding a little bit to it to make it so it's kind of like at the medium level. So again, looking at this, they don't have the same base, but I do know that 9 is the same thing as 3 squared, so I'm going to rewrite it. So then left side stays the same, 3 to the 2x plus 9. On the right side, 9 is the same thing as 3 squared. Now, that 8, though, we can't just forget about the 8, so we got to put parentheses around this, and then write the 8 on the outside. And then, so we can't cancel stuff out, the 3's out yet until we deal with the parentheses. So to deal with the parentheses, you have a power to a power, And hopefully you remember this, the power property, where you take the 2 and the 8 and you multiply them together. So then it would look like 3 to the 2x plus 9 equals, and then multiply the 2 times 8, you get 16, so 3 to the 16. Now that both sides have the same base, and now that the parentheses are gone, now you can cancel them out. So you get 2x plus 9 is equal to 16. Simple two-step equation, subtract. So you get 2x is equal to 7, and divide. So you get x is 7 over 2. Leave it as a fraction because I am lazy. All right, so that's what it will look like. So that's kind of at the medium level. Here's another example of the same thing. So again, bases don't match, so we want to change the 25 to match the 5. So then looks like 25 is the same thing as 5 squared, so we can do that. And then don't forget, you have to put the parentheses here and the x plus 3. Bring that down. Then again, can't cancel out the 5s till you get rid of the parentheses now. And then this part's important because I know a lot of people are going to miss this later on when you go to do the homework. This 2, when you go to multiply it, has to multiply both the x and the 3. So you got to use the distributive property. Remember, parentheses means you got to do the distributive property. So you have the 5 here, and then 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 3 is 6. So distribute that. Now that the 5s are there, now that the parentheses are gone, cancel, cancel. You get 2x plus 6 is equal to 3x. And there's a couple ways you could solve it, but the fastest way is to minus the 2x on both sides. So you get 6 is equal to 1x, or just x. And then, boom, there's your answer. X is 6. So you can see there that part, make sure that you pay attention to that. It has to be the distributive property because there was 2 terms there. There was an x and a 3. So keep that in mind. Now, last example is going to be the most difficult, at least for these where we're only changing one side. So that's the ones with the fractions, but hopefully by now you know what to do when you have a fraction. So again, we want these both to be a 4, so I want to change the fraction to match the 4 on the right side. So then, let's see, change the fraction to be 4 to the something. Keep in mind, just look at the 16. 16 is the same thing as 4 squared. And then what do we add in whenever? So what do we do whenever it's a fraction? We make the exponent a negative. So now that takes care of the left side. The right side's already a 4, so we can just leave it. And then can't do anything yet until we get rid of the parentheses. So make sure you do the distributive property. So this would be 4, and negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And negative 2 times 2 would be negative 4. Right side stays the same. Now that the 4s match and there's no parentheses, cancel, cancel. You get negative 2x minus 4 is equal to 3. Now it's your typical two-step equation. Add 4 to both sides. You get negative 2x is equal to 7. Divide both sides by negative 2. And so looks like x is equal to negative 7/2. All right, so that's the most difficult, at least for now. I think that would be negative 3.5. So like I was saying, that's the most difficult, at least for now, where you have to use that distributive property and it's a fraction. On the next lesson, we're still going to be solving exponential, but you're going to have to change both sides. So here's your homework. Don't forget, make sure that you're checking your answers with my answers. That's the best way that I could give you feedback. I post the answers every day or the day after the homework is due.